started on going through the recommended revisions to financial policies. I had some discussions with Donna about this briefly, and one of the things that she explained to me is that these aren't something that we should change lightly. Right? I also had some discussion with Deputy City Manager Patrick in depth about this, and there is one particular piece in here that I do think is important to adopt as a recommendation as quickly as possible, and I will get to that. So you'll see the items in red under policy 3 in budget. One will be to add to the principles of our budget policy. The prioritization of funding will guide resource allocation. Funding essential programs and services shall be the highest priority, followed by committed programs and services, with non-essential programs and services the lowest priority. This is something that we've discussed previously, is actually using an objective method to determine what is essential. Are we required to perform this function as government? Is there some sort of state or federal mandate? That's something to look at with that. Now, I know that there's a significant amount of work that would go into that, and we're already into this budget process. And I think any recommendation for that would be that would go into effect for the next fiscal year on the prioritization piece. I do think on the policies, it says city council shall adopt or reaffirm its vision and priorities annually before March 1st, provide the city manager with the necessary framework to prepare the proposed budget. One of the things that struck me quite interesting in the last 2 budget processes is that city council never actually cast an affirmative vote on the vision and priorities. The vision and priorities became an interpretation based on one-on-one meetings with council members that the city manager then delivered to us, and there's this nebulous quality of life priority in there that I think if it was put in there for up or down vote, it would absolutely fail, because there's no way of measuring. Because the first thing he says is that it means different things to different people. We should be able to measure all of our priorities. We should be able to measure whether we're succeeding as a municipal government or a municipal corporation, or whether we're failing at a priority. And I think that is something that I'm interested in looking at. The most important policy in here, I believe, is that second bullet under policy, is that city council shall establish tax and fee rates to set revenue levels prior to city manager's proposal and expenditures. And I think that is something we absolutely need to consider pushing forward as a recommendation, and that the language under number 1 on process would have to be changed to reflect that. The rest of these policy recommendations, I would say would be something to look at changing for next year. So that is that's the main thing that I'm looking at today, is that second red bullet under budget policies, followed with the revision on process under number 1, the change in the language on that. Yes, Dr.
Are you asking us to adopt some of this now?
I'm just, one recommendation would be that we set the tax and fee rates, set revenue levels prior to the city manager's proposal expenditures. The reason for that is the way every household has to set their budget. The main part of every corporate finance textbook you'll ever read, that you are required to figure out what money you have coming in before you determine what you're gonna spend. We cannot look at the citizens' taxpayer dollars like a limitless fund of dollars that we can just go take. We can't do that.
Thank you, I appreciate your comments. I'm just, was this the name, was this?
No, this is something that I've just wrapped up, so.
Oh, my God.
And that's why I said the rest of this stuff, I'm not even recommending.
I am just, make sure we on the same page, I am just receiving this, I'm a part of the committee, it's a committee of 3, not a committee of 1, not a committee of 2, it's a committee of 3. I am just receiving this, I'm appalled that I'm asked to vote on something, that I'm just getting a few minutes. I have a couple more minutes for our next meeting. I think this needs to be tabled to our next meeting. I can adequately review this and make an assessment. I want to hear what the staff has to say, what the city manager has to say. And there's no way I can vote on something that I'm just getting was like 30 pages.
Dr. Wilder?
I'm not a speed reader, I'm sorry.
I just wanna point out to you that,
Yes.
in the email that you replied to me
Yes.
on, I did actually say, city council must take a more active role in overseeing how tax dollars are spent. We should also consider setting revenue before expenditures, just as businesses, households, and organizations must do, treating tax revenue as an unlimited resource is neither sustainable nor responsible. You replied to that email, so that's why that's the only portion here that I'm recommending, and the rest of this, I'm saying,
Yeah.
let's look at that the next fiscal year.
And I
So for
totally-
you to say that this is the first time that you've seen that recommendation is kind of disingenuous, Dr. Wilder.
No, I'm not
Because
doing
you
this.
did reply to this email.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand. I got an email that was about what's gonna be the agenda today. This has just been given to me just now. I was about 30 pages. I'm not gonna vote on something I'm just getting, that I don't even know what is in here. I'm not adequately prepared to talk about this. I'd rather talk to our city manager to see what his thoughts are, and other persons with us finance team, what we're reviewing this. I mean, this is inappropriate. I'm sorry, this is inappropriate, but I think it's unfair.
Yeah,
Those are your-
I, just wanna say that it's the first time I've seen it too, and I appreciate your concern. that
Yes,
you have
thank you.
Seen that, before. I did see it in the other document, pretty clearly. It's pretty a high level principle, that you're talking about. It's the way most of us operate our homes. We don't necessarily go out and, spend a lot of money if we don't know if we're gonna have the money to spend. Is that not the way that's the way I operate my house, anyway. It's a high level principle, we're either, I think, kind of for it or against it. It doesn't require the city manager to tell me, I do it every day in my house. I don't spend money I don't know I'm gonna have for sure. So, in general, I'm in favor of that high level principle. Appreciate that you're gonna put the rest for us to look at more in depth, so staff can look at it and everything, but, when it comes to a high level principle like this, I don't need a whole lot of time. I live my life by that principle, and, I think most of us do. So I would like to make a motion that we recommend to council the idea that we do put, spending after we've determined what, we have to spend. And, I would like to ask for a second on that.
So, I would just like to clarify on that motion, if we can, the language, make it clear, the motion, as I understand it,
Goes
is
to
to
priority in the
set
policy.
revenue, make it the policy of the city of Lynchburg to set revenue before expenditures.
Both the policy section, which is bullet one. and
I would defer to staff to get the language correct on that, but just, if you're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, if they wanna
But
clean it
the
up. that's
general
fine.
ideology to set the policy of the city of Lynchburg to set revenue before expenditures, and the city council is required
And
to set
include
revenue.
the, ideas expounded in the process, section as well, those two things, absolutely, that should be the way we do things in the city, that's the way the rest of us are.
So if you're good with that, that language, as your motion is to set the revenue, the city revenue before expenditures?
Yeah, to set revenue levels prior to the city manager's proposal of expenditures.
Okay, then,
Exactly the way it says there, unless you guys wanna make sense of it.
I'd like to make a substitute motion, that we table this into our next regular meeting. We have better time to adequately prepare, adequately review this, and also get comments from our city manager. Make that as a motion.
is there a second? There's no second for the substitute. Motion died without second. So I will, I'll make a second on that motion to set revenue before expenditures. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that again, as the person who made the motion, that I think, if somebody doesn't operate their home that way, if they're, spending money before they know they're gonna have the money, that's a very unusual way to do things. It's not fiscally responsible in my mind, and I'm kind of surprised the city doesn't run that way. It's certainly the way most businesses operate. They gotta make sure they got the money before they spend it, and, our corporation, I hope we would do the same, so I'm absolutely in favor of that.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I totally disagree with this motion. I offered a substitute motion, it was not second, so that motion failed. Again, I think we are just, we just get it out of our realm. We can talk to the city manager about the policy first. We should not do this. Is there anything we're doing that's not normal? We receive awards from our accounting department, for our staff, from our audit. We receive annual awards for the work that we're doing, and to say what they're doing not proper or not normal, that's, I'm looking at the experts that give us accreditation for the accounting team that we have received awards for, and now you're telling me, y'all not even in a county, city government, and y'all wanna tell us that they're doing something wrong? Are we doing any different than what other normal cities are doing?
Currently, no.
So-
This would be absolutely opposite of how every other locality adopts their budget.
So why would we do something like that? I don't understand, this is, right, I do not, I feel like this is a major mistake. I feel like we're getting out of our bounds. I think we don't know what we're doing. We talk about something we don't have enough adequate. I have the kind of degree, and I still yield to them for all these peculiarities. I was a government kind of moment auditor, so I yield to the professional staff to tell us how other cities are doing for persons who've been doing for 20+ years, who receive national awards, who I highly respect the work that her team is doing. I don't think we should second guess her. I don't think neither one of y'all CPAs, and is there a CPA up here? None of y'all, are you CPA?
NBA.
Okay, you're not a CPA.
No, sir.
Okay, that's a big difference. I mean, I'm just saying, there's, the CPAs on the staff that know what they're doing. I totally disagree with this. I think this is a gross injustice to the faith in our team, to what we're doing to our city. It's not right.
So currently, just to clarify, the motion on the floor is to make it the policy of the city of Lynchburg to set revenue before expenditures, and this is a recommendation. This is not making it the policy, this is a recommendation to city council, so this will go before the whole city council to discuss, debate, and adopt if we're gonna determine if we're gonna set the revenue before the expenditures.
Can I just, one point of clarification, there's no attorney here. There is city charter code language that outlines
Thinking the same thing.
how the budget process functions, right? I do think, without having the language in front of me, I do think we may be in conflict with that code section. So we'd have to clarify that with the attorney.
Considering that information, are you acceptable to a friendly amendment on that is if this clears through city attorney review, that moves forward to the city council?
Yes, and I'd also like to request a list of localities that you talked about, that everybody else does. Just if you can give me that information, because that's very surprising to me, honestly. You have graduate level accounting degree.
By state code, the city manager has to propose a balanced budget.
Right,
And I honestly don't know of any other locality that adopts their revenues before their expenditures.
We did it 2 years ago.
let's get back to the motion.
But that's not
That's
true.
really not part of the motion.
You force the manager to a tax rate by a threat, and then, but you didn't set any other revenues. That was done through the budget process.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a threat, I mean, it was an agreement that there was, we wanted to equalize it better. And the language, I think, again, like the language is right, that's why we're gonna include the city attorney in this discussion. And if it's a viable recommendation, passes that muster.
Yeah, if it doesn't match our charter, then it's a moot issue, but, again, surprised if it's not.
And if I could just throw this out here on page 7, I don't know if this is how you did a budget in Norfolk by program. If you wanna triple my staff and give me 2 years, this could probably work. We looked at this a number of years ago and tried to do something more by program. This is a whole lot of work
Well-
that we currently can't do.
And that is exactly why I completely pulled that from the recommendation.
So
For now.
I'm just
To
throwing
kind
that
of
out there as I flip.
give an idea of, hey, I'd like to see a list of what is mandated, what are we required to do, what are we committed to make agreements to, and then what's everything else. That's really what I'd like to see and look for in the future, is looking at how to prioritize those scarce resources, because that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback there. It took us 2 years to make that transition with a staff of 20 in the budget office. It's hard work. You can get there, and it's great if and when you do, but it is very hard.
So I'm
I
gonna
know
go ahead
it's
and
pulled.
call the vote on it, like we're doing.
Yes.
Dr. Wilder,
No.
Chairman Missions is a yes, 2-1. We have that, all right. The next item on the agenda, I'm just gonna introduce this as, just something for people to look at. There are changes moving rapidly, through the federal government on what we can and cannot fund in order to maintain federal grant eligibility. This is an informational item. This is not being presented for a vote. And due to the sake of time, I'm gonna move on to the last item, which is proposal, but that's to introduce that to staff and have you guys start taking a look at something like that to that effect, similar that we can do to make sure we're staying in compliance, because we want to make sure we're not funding divisive ideology with our citizens' tax dollars. Moving on to the next item, proposing a new time, I'm gonna make a motion that we propose to Lynchburg City Council that we move the finance committee meetings to 11 a.m. on the same day. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
I don't need to be anyway, though, I mean, that's the point.
Call vote.
Yes.
Chair Missions is a yes. And Dr. Wilder?
Do you need me to come?
Yes, we do.
Okay, yes.
We're glad you're here.
I don't see no point.
All right. With that, the meeting is adjourned.